So, you've probably heard of the Lamb of God, right? It's one of the most well-known religious symbols in the world. But what if I told you that this lamb is actually the hero of an ancient cosmic legal drama? Today, we're putting on our detective hats. We're going to piece together clues from all across the biblical story to solve a pretty epic mystery, one that involves lost nations, corrupt spiritual governors, and a fight for the divine title deed to planet Earth. Okay, so let's dive right into the heart of this mystery. In the Bible's final book, Revelation, the entire fate of the world comes down to one question: who is worthy to open this sealed-up scroll? And the answer, believe it or not, is a slain lamb, which just seems weird, right? Why would weakness and sacrifice be the thing that qualifies you for cosmic power? So picture this scene. It's set in this heavenly throne room. A powerful being announces that the Lion of the tribe of Judah, a symbol of a conquering king, has won the right to open this critical document. But when the prophet John, who's seeing all this, turns to look, he doesn't see a lion. He sees a lamb. And it has the marks of having been slaughtered, but somehow it's standing, alive. This contrast, right here, the lion that's announced versus the lamb that appears, is our first huge clue. Now, to really get why this lamb is the hero, we have to rewind, and I don't mean just a few chapters. I mean, we have to go all the way back to the book of Genesis, to the scene of what you could call a foundational cosmic crime, the Tower of Babel. You know, most of us think of Babel as the story of why there are so many different languages. But in the framework we're exploring, it's so much more than that. It was actually a formal judicial act by God. It was a moment of what's called disinheritance, where God basically says, fine, and hands over the rebellious nations of the world to the authority of others. And this right here is a bombshell piece of evidence that changes pretty much everything. If you look in most modern Bibles, it says, God divided the nations according to the number of the sons of Israel. But, and this is a huge but, if you look at the much older texts, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says something totally different. It reads, according to the number of the sons of God. Now that little change has massive implications. It suggests God assigned these disinherited nations to the stewardship of lesser divine beings. This whole idea has a name. It's called the Deuteronomy 32 worldview. And what it does is it lays out a kind of cosmic geography. After Babel, the world gets split up. You have earthly nations, and they have corresponding spiritual rulers or princes. We actually see this idea pop up later in the book of Daniel, where it talks about a supernatural prince of Persia and a prince of Greece who have real authority over those empires. In the middle of all this, God carves out one nation, Israel, to be his own personal portion. So God sets up this whole system of delegated authority, a council of divine beings to watch over the nations. I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, everything. According to the biblical writers, this whole management plan went disastrously, catastrophically wrong. Psalm 82 gives us this incredible window into the breakdown. It paints this picture of a dramatic heavenly courtroom. God calls together his divine council, the same spiritual governors of the nations. And he doesn't take his seat as their leader. He takes his place as their judge. And the charge he brings against them is absolutely scathing. He basically indicts them for gross mismanagement. Their job was to uphold justice for the poor and the weak in the nations they were given, but instead, they promoted corruption. They showed favoritism to the wicked. They completely failed at their one job. And then God drops the hammer. He passes the sentence you see right here. He says, I made you gods, I gave you this divine status, but because you've been so corrupt, I'm taking it away. You're going to lose your immortality. You will die just like human beings. The divine council is officially fired and sentenced to death. But wait a minute, this verdict creates a massive cosmic legal problem. If the divine rulers of the nations are corrupt and they're under a death sentence, how does God legally get those nations back? Who has the right to reclaim that forfeited inheritance? And that question brings us right back to that throne room in Revelation. See, that sealed scroll isn't just some book about the future. It's understood to be the legal title deed for the nations, the official document that authorizes God to take them back. And the crisis in the story is that no one in heaven or on earth is found legally worthy to open it and execute the plan inside. But then, the Lamb steps forward, and the whole heavenly council just erupts into this new song that explains exactly why he's the one who is worthy. The song itself is like a legal declaration. It breaks down like this. First, the act. You were slain. Okay. Second, the result. By your blood, you ransomed people. And third, here's the kicker, the scope.
This ransom isn't just for one group, it's for people from every tribe and language and people and nation, the very same groups that were scattered and disinherited way back at Babel.
So here's the crucial point, the thing that connects all these dots. The lamb's sacrifice wasn't just a spiritual act, it was a cosmic legal transaction. His death, his blood, was the purchase price. It satisfied the legal requirement to buy back the inheritance of the nations, an inheritance that had been forfeited by their corrupt spiritual governors. So the lamb did conquer, not by fighting, but by paying the price.
Okay, so the verdict is in. The case is won in the heavenly courtroom. But a ruling like that is one thing. How does it actually get enforced down here on earth? Well, let's take a look at how this starts to play out in human history.
The Apostle Paul talks about the cross in exactly these terms, these legal terms. He says that through this event, God judicially disarmed the rulers and authorities. You hear that? Those are the very same corrupt spiritual governors of the nations. Their authority was officially stripped away. The cross was the moment their sentence from Psalm 82 was finally executed.
And then, about 50 days after the resurrection, you get the day of Pentecost. And this event is just a stunningly perfect reversal of what happened at Babel. At Babel, languages are confused and humanity is scattered and divided. At Pentecost, you have people from all over the world suddenly understanding each other's languages. They're being gathered and reunited into one new community. The project of reclaiming the nations has officially begun. When you lay it out on a timeline like this, the whole grand story becomes so clear. It all starts with the problem, the disinheritance at Babel. The cross is the legal turning point, where the enemy is disarmed. Pentecost is the D-Day, the launch of the historical reversal. And it's all heading toward this final vision of the New Jerusalem, where the glory of all those reclaimed nations is finally brought together and redeemed. So, why does all this matter? Why go to all the trouble of looking at this as a cosmic legal case? I mean, why not just stick with the simpler Sunday school versions of these stories? Because when you connect the dots this way, you realize there's a single, massive, coherent epic hiding in plain sight. This reframes absolutely everything. The Lamb is no longer a passive symbol of innocence. He's an active, conquering hero who won a legal battle for the entire world. Stories that seem totally random, like Babel and Pentecost, are now revealed to be two sides of the exact same coin. When the New Testament talks about fighting against principalities and powers, that's not just a metaphor. It's talking about a real cosmic legal struggle over the governance of nations. And maybe most importantly, it means the Lamb's death is the legal foundation for God's claim on every single nation on earth. And that leaves us with one final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. If the verdict was already passed, and if these corrupt spiritual rulers were legally disarmed at the cross 2,000 years ago, what does that imply about the nature of human history and all our governments ever since? It suggests that for the last 2 millennia, we've been living in the long era of enforcement, the slow, messy, but steady implementation of a verdict that has already been won. And that, well, that changes how you see just about everything.